Okay, I'd like to call the regular meeting of council for June 9th, 2025 to order at 6 p.m. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I'll call on Councillor Use, please, for the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. Moved by myself, Councillor Use, seconded by Councillor Hallerou, that the items contained in the June 9th, 2025 consent agenda be adopted as presented.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Councillor Use, please.
Yeah, I had made a, thank you, Mayor. I had made a comment back a couple of months ago regarding the consent agenda reports that were giving us numbers of attendance, but it wasn't giving us any historical numbers. I see that those historical numbers are there now for comparison. I appreciate that, and it helps inform, well, myself. And it looks good. The numbers look good. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Councillor Van Kootenbos, in your absence, I did call for pecuniary interest, so I'll just ask.
I do not have any. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Oh, not a problem. Council minutes for May 12th. Councillor Hallerou, please.
Thank you. Through you. Moved by myself, Councillor Hallerou, seconded by Councillor Van Kootenbos, that the minutes of the May 12th, 2025 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Thank you very much. Discussion? I certainly want to thank the Deputy Mayor for stepping in and chairing the meeting in my absence, and everything just worked out perfectly. So again, thank you very much for stepping up and doing that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. All right, with that, we will jump straight into special staff reports. Item number 3 on the agenda, C-019-25, second monthly meeting report. I will turn that over to Mr. Grace, please.
Sure. This is the beginning of us starting to come up with a policy framework to handle this second meeting for the sort of trial run that would begin next year. There's a fair bit of detail in here on how we would handle that, but for further elaboration, I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy Clerk to expand on it.
Thank you. As Council is aware, the Clerk's Department is currently reviewing Council's procedure bylaw. As part of this review, Council discussed the possibility of holding a second monthly Council meeting. In anticipation of the draft procedure bylaw coming back to Council, staff have drafted a framework for the adoption of a second monthly regular meeting for Council's consideration. Under the proposed framework, the additional meeting would only occur on an as-needed basis, based on factors such as time sensitivity, volume of requests, and presentations. Staff have also provided information to facilitate discussion on potential changes to Council's regular meeting day from Monday to Tuesday or Wednesday. And I'm happy to answer any questions that Council may have.
Thank you very much. Questions from Council? Councillor Use.
Thank you. Through you to the Deputy Clerk. I did notice that there's a policy or procedure that does not allow committee meetings to happen during council meetings. Is that ours, or is that our policy procedure, or is that something that the province mandates?
That's something that's just our procedure that handles that, and mainly because we have some council reps that will attend those meetings is the main reason we're trying to look for a lack of overlap so we don't leave those committees tied up without council representation. So,
thank you. Councillor Van Kootenbos. Oh, sorry. Councillor Van Kootenbos.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Either one. Based off of that, then, if we were to pick a night where there was a committee meeting, would it be the expectation that the committee would need to move that meeting, or should we be staying away from that at this point in time? Just curiosity more than anything.
Sure.
yeah, I think we'd probably look to them to see if we can move it, trying to pick out that date and make it a fairly consistent date, I think is what I've heard from council that we would like to get. We know how it's good to kind of get those slotted on the calendars. So it's likely something we try to look to move those committees.
I know there's some different options on there, so I will provide some feedback to Councilor Van Kooten-Bossen's on towards the motion, is that I do believe that we should, if we're going to have 2 meetings, we should keep the same format that we're using now and have them on the Monday evening during this term of council. I think that similar to other issues that we've talked about in the procedure bylaw, I think major changes to what we do should be talked about through a new term of council. So the members of council now that have committed themselves during this time, you know, it's already on a Monday, and that was what was advertised, that we could say. I'm fully supportive of having this as been prescribed here, because it allows for planning to happen rather than trying to call a special meeting and not knowing when that can happen. It's easier to cancel something rather than try to have something new. But I think that would be my input for the days, is to keep it Monday and Monday at this time, unless there's, I know there's still conflict with one committee, the BIA board, but there's every day of the week there's something that's a commitment, and it seems to be that's the case right now. If we have an extra meeting as it is next time, that seems to be the one that's always affected at this time anyway. If there's any other further comments or question or input for.
I would really love to have input from everybody around the table before I have to try to figure out what to put for a motion.
Deputy Mayor Wilson, please.
Thank you, Mayor Petrie, through you. I'll make it really simple, just to say that I agree completely with Mayor Petrie's comments around keeping it on the Monday for much similar reasons as he already expressed.
Anybody else? Councilor Hughes? Oh, Councilor Hallett? Sorry, I
Yeah,
see a hand.
likewise. I think a Monday will make it consistent and that'll be helpful.
Councilor Hughes?
So we're talking about the second and the fourth Monday, not the first and third, correct? I believe.
So for clarification, we meet on the second Monday right now, so that would be, yeah, it would be the second.
Okay, second and fourth. Okay, yep, no problem. So we'd have to have a discussion with the BIA Board of Management to look at that then. So, okay. No, I'm supportive of the second and fourth Monday for, you know, the remainder of this year. And then again, we can have a fulsome discussion in regard, well, I guess for 2026, my apologies. And then the new council members can discuss it further upon election. Thank you.
Okay, I think I heard some consensus there. If there's any other questions, or we'll have a motion come forward for some debate.
Perfect. All right, so moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilson, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive staff report C-019-25 as information, and that Council adopt the guidelines for a discretionary second monthly regular council meeting for the implementation in 2026 and inclusion in the updated procedure bylaw. And further, that Council direct that the council meeting dates be established for the second and fourth Monday of the month for implementation in 2026.
Discussion. Councilor Van Kooten-Bossen's.
So my only thing is that I didn't add it in because I didn't have enough forethought, was that we add in there that this be brought back, or will staff just automatically bring this back for us to discuss? And will it be our term of council to get it set before the election so that people who are running for council know what days, or would we leave this for the next term of council?
Mr. Graves.
Mr. Mayor, through you. So this policy really governs what we would do for this sort of trial run from 2026 till the end of the term. And so we'll hopefully see how that works out as we move through that process. And we may, as we move through it, it's possible that council says this isn't working or this needs to change. So it's a little hard to crystal ball exactly where we end up. If we're finding that it's working well, and it seems like that's becoming more solidified, it's very possible towards the end of this term that this council may recommend to the future council that they continue that. But as Councillor Hughes pointed out a few minutes ago, when the new council is elected, they may look at it and say, we want to continue that, or we'd like to change that as well. So, but at least there'll be some experience for that new council to base their decision on. That's really the intent of this.
Thank you.
further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is, that gets carried. Okay, we will now move on to C-023-35, Records Management Strategic Plan, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Graves.
Thank you. I just want to say that the work that's been done on records management for the last little while, and I'm looking at all of the clerk's department, including Victoria, that has been amazing. I've been very impressed with what they've done. They've certainly done better than our last clerk that worked here. I don't know what we were doing with him, but anyway, so I'd just like to turn it over to the deputy clerk, but just say great work on all of the clerk's department for this.
Thank you, Michael. Through the mayor. The report before you is intended to inform council of the Town of Ingersoll's 2025 Records Management Strategic Plan. This plan was developed to address both long-standing records management objectives and new opportunities made possible by the town's recent acquisition of an updated version of its electronic records management system. This plan establishes a framework for effective forward-looking records administration that moves beyond legislative compliance. This report is being brought before council to show the ways in which the clerk's department is moving forward with our records management program. A bit of a good news story for us, and we are incredibly grateful for our records management licensing coordinator, Victoria Joseph, who has done a wonderful job leading this work. Victoria is here tonight and would be happy to answer any questions of council if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions of the report? Seems to be all in order. Sorry, Deputy Mayor Wilson, please.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Bowman. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll received staff report C-023-25 as information.
Thank you very much. Discussion? Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you. A comment really for staff, which is maybe this isn't the most riveting work, but it's important that someone has the attention to detail and the enthusiasm for this kind of policy work. So thank you for doing that, even if there weren't a lot of questions and curiosity. It's very well done, and we appreciate the effort.
Absolutely, and I'll just add to, the strategic goals that are coming from this and the values are extremely important. Open information, all the work that we do as a council and a municipality, for the most part, is be able to be transparent. Unfortunately, it doesn't take long to go back in time before stuff wasn't digital or electronic, and so those records can be more cumbersome to access, and in this day and age, everybody would like things as fast as possible. So it's a daunting task, but it will really improve on those aspects and improve the daily lives of all staff, I think, to be able to access this information as quick as possible. So, excellent. Further comment? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, and that leads to number 5, CS 007-25, ice allocation. Mr. Graves.
Yes, thank you. We had hoped to be here with this policy a little sooner than this, but it's taken us a little while to review the various policies and to put together our version of the policy. Because we have had some difficulty acquiring an attempt to review this, that's also delayed us as well. But I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Community Services to go over this report and to outline some of the key fundamentals of how we got here and what we're looking at. And we've got some decisions for councils. The cost to review are a little bit higher than what we expected. Kyle?
find someone that is able to give a legal opinion on ice allocation policies, that would be an additional cost in terms of what they have proposed, because they don't know what that would cost, because they haven't been able to find anyone that can do that. So they will do an assessment, if council chooses to go that way, of it through various lenses, but they are not legally certified to give a opinion. They will give an opinion based off best practices and what other people are doing, but there isn't anyone in the field that they're aware of or that I can find that can do the full extent, so this is the best of what we can do. So then, that's kind of a timeline of RC Strategies also had a family emergency mixed in here, which delayed things, unfortunately. So that's kind of how we got to here. Then when you get to ice allocation as a whole, ice allocation is very complex. And there's some things that are important to understand before we get into the meat and potatoes. So the first of which is that, as everyone can remember, our study shows that we have about a pad and a half worth of use for a pad. So we will always have, in that scenario, more ice time requests than we can facilitate. So the policy is supposed to help try and determine in those scenarios who gets what. So every municipality is dealing with that same circumstance. The other important thing to note is that the registration for girls hockey and Ingersoll District minor hockey, which boys and girls can both play, are very different. So in girls hockey, you can register anywhere you want. You can try out for any team you want. You can go essentially wherever you choose. Ingersoll District minor hockey is governed by the OMHA. You're controlled by where you live. So you can't just go to another municipality and play. You're forced to your center. Then what can further complicate this ice allocation policy is that Ingersoll minor hockey and Tillsonburg minor hockey both used to have their own competitive rep hockey teams. They have now combined to an A center, which can get confusing for people. It essentially just means by combining, they're able to play at a higher level of competition at similar centers, at a similar populations as the A center now combined, so that you don't lose kids going to other municipalities. When they decided to amalgamate, essentially what happened was the rep ice hockey time in Ingersoll and the rep ice hockey time in Tillsonburg was given to this new amalgamated organization. This new amalgamated organization is underneath both minor hockey organizations' umbrella, but how each minor hockey organization handles their portion of the organization is different. But at the end of the day, although Tillsonburg minor hockey treats it differently than Ingersoll minor hockey treats it, they are considered from a Tillsonburg perspective and an Ingersoll perspective, from an ice allocation perspective, which is what we are here to discuss, they are considered the same. So they are considered in Ingersoll District minor hockey, in Tillsonburg minor hockey. From an ice allocation perspective, it is different how they are invoiced, it is different how they request their time, that is different. But those are decisions that their executives made separately. So then you get into the crux of the report, and essentially there's three options before council, is that because we are coming up on a new ice season, we haven't done ice allocation yet. Typically, we send out the policy with the request form. We get the requests back. We schedule a meeting. If there are any conflicts in the schedule, to discuss where we could potentially move some ice times. If there is no resolution at that meeting, then we use the policy that they have all been provided to dispel any other discrepancies. So option one before council is that we just proceed with the updated policy that's in front of council here today through the review of all the municipalities listed. The other option is that we proceed with the update, and we also get RC Strategies to provide a review to which there is a cost. Or the third option is we stay with the current policy with no updates, and we also get a legal review. Either way, we need to make a decision tonight on what policy are we going forward with for next season. And then it's a decision of, do we do the league or the RC Strategies review or not? So that's kind of the report in a nutshell, but I'd be happy to answer any questions because it is very complicated.
Thank you, through your mayor. So Kyle, question for you. Did we ever have a legal opinion on the way that you currently operate and allocate ice time?
No.
So it was a town kind of bylaw policy and, or just a process that you followed to do that?
Not dissimilar to other municipalities.
Exactly.
It was a policy developed way before my time here that is based on what other municipalities do. So when you review ice allocation policies, they are all
Pretty much the same.
very similar.
Okay. So is it fair to say that because we are aware that the girls' hockey team now have that option to be included? We're trying to be more inclusive now. So the whole idea of this policy was to come up with a way that we are now more inclusive of what we are now aware as options for teams that want to play in Ingersoll. So I was thinking of it on a basis of just recognizing the new extra groups and having a fair level playing field within the next allocation. So was that going to be harder, or did we need much more of a review to that?
I'm not sure I understand.
So-
In the meantime, I'm just going to go to Mr. Graves because I know he did want to
Yeah.
add.
Just the
Explain
one
number two.
part of that question was if we had a legal review. Council will recall that we did receive some legal advice in closed session, which sort of brought us to an updated policy, and that's why this policy is here. In regards to, I think this policy is intended to be an updated policy to be better reflective of the community, but effectively bring the policy more up to date.
Yeah, follow up. So the reason I'm asking is I'm kind of confused as to the 40% in the option, that's the option one, right? I'm just trying to make sense of why, if we were to consider a new policy, why we wouldn't have, say, up to 50% for the region and then 50% for ice allocation, and actually just adjust it that way so that we have more.
I'm not sure I fully understand, but
Yeah.
I'll try. So that 40% comes out of residency that's in the draft, comes out of talking to other municipalities, because that number isn't always the same. Other municipalities are at 30 or 20 or 50 or 60, it depends. So that number came to by assessing what other municipalities do, but also looking at our user groups and what their numbers were.
So we're matching about 40% is what you, That's what I want to understand. Are we matching up
Our
to 40?
lowest group, I'll pull up the numbers.
So just in the meantime, if I could add something to that, and looking at different ones, if that number's too high, you can actually discourage groups that could access, especially ones that are made up that, and I'm going to specifically say girls hockey because traditionally there is more of a regional effect for those. So if we go too high in the number, because there is some push to have residents pay taxes here, have access to it first. But if you push the numbers too high, nobody can meet that threshold, and then you can actually stop people. It would be a less inclusive policy because nobody can meet those, certain groups can't meet the threshold, or no group can meet the threshold. But if you go too low, then it's a balance, because if you go too low, then all of a sudden you're going to have groups that have no affiliation with just the ratepayers that are here.
Which is why I kind of want to understand the ratio as it is right now.
Like, for example, Ingersoll minor hockey last year was 84% Ingersoll residents. Ingersoll Skating Club was 63% Ingersoll residents. West Oxford Inferno was 42% Ingersoll residents. So when we arrived at that number, we looked at what did our existing user groups currently have so that we weren't negatively impacting them. By saying to West Oxford Inferno, oh, we're going to require you to have 60%, and then them not be able to meet that, so then them not be able to be eligible for rights.
Okay, I get you now. Thanks.
Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
Thank you. Do we know what the requirements are for each one of the, like, have we been in touch with any of the leagues at this point in time and asked them what their requirements are? I mean, we could be essentially opening a can of worms that doesn't need to be opened, because if Ingersoll minor hockey isn't needing all of their time, or Inferno's not needing a huge amount of more time, I mean, has there been any conversation to this point with any of the leagues?
So I said this to Michael earlier. So we know what the user groups require, but we officially, because we send out the policy and the official request form together, we can't do that without deciding tonight. So then literally tomorrow it would go out, and then we would officially know. But we have already had conversations with all of the user groups to know what we are looking at for the upcoming season, because this was approaching.
Anybody who hasn't had a question yet who wants a question? Deputy Mayor Wilson, and then I'll come back.
Thank you, through you. So you're trying to describe that relationship between the co-ed rep leagues being subsidiaries of the Minor Hockey Association. And so I'm just curious how the policy defines that subsidiary relationship. Otherwise, you know, other organizations could also say they're subsidiaries and then become eligible through other organizations. So I'm just curious how the policy defines that relationship to make sure there's no discrepancy between the decisions that are being made and what the policy has determined is eligible.
I'll try my best here. So the policy, and this would be for both Ingersoll and Tillsonburg, would look at the rep hockey and minor hockey through the same lens from an ice allocation standpoint. So they aren't separate organizations. They don't go through the ice allocation separately. They don't go by the residency requirement. They go by the main organization is how they are treated.
So a follow-up, and you may not know the answer to this, but how is that different from the way Zora does their ice allocation policy?
I don't know if Zora has rep hockey, like competitive hockey, to be able to have this same scenario. So I would have to reach out to them. I know they don't have an amalgamation, so that would be different for them also. But I would have to reach out to see. Like, what really complicates things here is the amalgamation is essentially the rep hockey teams of each organization combined into one team, but they still use the same ice. Like, it's not like ice time went up or down when the amalgamation happened. The same ice time is being used for the same purpose. It's being used for rep hockey. That hasn't changed. It's just the team that is on the ice has changed.
Follow-up or new question?
Follow-up. So you may not know this either then, if the stats haven't been disclosed, but is the resident usage in the rep league comparable to the other parts of the association? Like, is the ice being distributed to residents in the same way in different levels of play?
What I can say, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but knowing how the organization somewhat functions, is that there is a rep hockey team at pretty much every age level. The mix between each team is generally 50-50 between Ingersoll and Tillsonburg. That's a general number. There are teams that I know last year where other than one kid were exclusively Ingersoll, and there were teams that were the opposite of that, but somewhere in the average, 50-50. It's actually somewhat of an advantage for Ingersoll residents. The amalgamation happens because they get access to 2 ice pads of ice time in Ingersoll when they only had, or in Tillsonburg, when they only had 1 here. The agreement of the amalgamation is a 50-50 split, so you pay half your games here and half your games there, but they have an extra pad. So you have that extra availability, I guess, that you didn't have prior. I guess the problem when you get into residency on who makes what team is the Storm teams are, you try out for them. So in a tryout, it could be, like some examples, all Ingersoll kids that make the team. Or it could be all Tillsonburg kids that make that team.
Just for clarification, though, those rep teams fall under Ingersoll District Minor Hockey.
They
As
are
one
yes.
organization, and that organization does have over 40%?
Yes, they have 84%.
Okay. Councillor Hallerue, and then I'll come back.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor. I don't have a concern regarding the amalgamation, because again, it's almost the same ice time. They're just basically, like you said, under one umbrella. What I want to know is, knowing that we have a new team, new girls hockey teams, that we're really clamoring for spots, are we saying right now that we do know how much they need, or we still don't know how much they need? Because you already kind of have an idea of other teams.
I know off the record what West Oxford Inferno requires for ice time next year, yes.
Okay.
I won't officially know until we send the policy and they send back their official request for it.
So basically, if we, sorry, follow up. So basically, if we now know that, just like we have for other teams, then isn't it simply applying a policy percentage based on what we have available so that everyone gets a fair chance at it? Because I'm trying to find where the difficulty is in us making a decision and then making it trickle down to something we didn't expect.
I'm not.
I know. So, okay, so I'm just saying, we know, like you said, the requirements for every team, including this new team now, correct?
Maybe if I could
'Cause-
try
Yeah,
here.
because we keep going back to
So
the
is the
teams that-
question being asked, will there be ice time available for Oxford Inferno? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, and if that included means that we're now looking at the whole bucket, including them for ice allocation.
So they already have an hour this year. So again, I guess this is relevant too, so we'll go back in history. West Oxford Inferno is the Ingersoll Ice combined with Embro, so we talked about amalgamation again.
Yeah, I remember that.
They had, at their peak, 7.5 hours of ice in 2017, weekly, in Ingersoll. They eventually, due to registration, declined in numbers to the point that they gave back all of their ice time. And when they gave back all of their ice time, they lost all of their rights listed as a regular user group to be able to participate in asking for ice time. Last year, minor hockey gave up the 5:30 to 6:30 time to allow them to establish themselves, to get back on their feet, to get going. They will have, likely, based off conversations that I've had with them, additional ice time requests. But when we get to that meeting with all of the user groups, we figure that out then. And if we can't figure it out at that meeting, we use the policy to dictate who gets what ice.
Yeah. Okay, last follow-up. That really helps me. Now, what I want to understand is in this policy, are we going to have a clause that determines who continues to get ice time based on the regular user groups that are consistent? Because I'm trying to figure out how one group will be favored over another, say, every year as we renew these policies. So what is that criteria that determines that a group consistently gets ice time?
So there's a bunch of criteria listed in the policy. One of which is that you have to regularly have, like you have to have time every week that's a general slot that you are always booking. And that's your ice, and over the course of the year, you're not turning it back all the time, and like you're using it. And that okay.
So, Kyle, I have a question for you. Was all the ice time that was available last year, like the time slots, were they used fully? And are you, with your background knowledge, thinking that will happen this year, they'll be used?
It's a bit of a loaded question, so again, I'll try my best.
Forget the second part, just go with the first part.
Trying to think of the best way to phrase this.
Because I'm specifically asking about, we looked at opening up more available ice time with the 6 o'clock, or opening up more on Saturdays.
So
and when
prime
we
time
could.
ice, because when I talk about like the pad and a half for the pad, prime time ice, not available. Unless you talk about the 4 to 5 o'clock slots that used to get rented out all the time, pretty commonly. In the morning ice times that used to get rented out pretty commonly. Now, those ice times are not requested by any group, but that's not just an Ingersoll thing. That has become a thing across Ontario, across Canada, that those less desirable ice times, groups just aren't using.
But there's opportunity.
So there is time available when kids would not be in school to have ice time if you really needed it. It's just those groups don't want those times.
No, it's just, that's fine, it's just, they're either being used or they're not, right? So, and we all know that, like, the premium time is the premium time, and that's the problem that we face, is that a lot of time our arena is left empty for various reasons. It is not at that time where it's a desirable time. It was more of a question based off, we had done something to try to accommodate more, and how did that follow through over the course of the season? Because there is various, I get it, there's trends and everything else. But yeah, so that did answer my question on that, so I appreciate that. Councillor Hughes.
I have, unless Councillor Van Kootenbos sends it. Okay, perfect. Going to back up here a little bit. So I have about 3 questions, I hope, maybe a couple of follow-ups. But the first question is, so you're saying that we have enough pad requests for 1.5 rinks. Is that just by the user groups that we are currently serving?
Correct.
So there's no outside asking for that prime time? Okay, no problem.
That assessment also takes into factor your population and how many rinks typically exist per population. So it's not just solely based off.
Okay, all right, thank you. So there's like a formula, I don't want to see that. I can imagine it's going to look like physics. Now, in your document here, you consistently quote legal review with RC strategies. However, your comment was RC strategies really doesn't have a legal opinion, it's just their opinion. That's where I'm kind of struggling, and especially for $12,500. That's an awfully expensive opinion. But however, having said that, other municipalities have used RC strategy to review their policies, and there are no, that you know of at this point in time, legal firms that have history in reviewing ice time policies. So I struggle with approving $12,500 for a review, an opinion of our policy. However, looking at it from,
Just a question, if there's a question at this point.
yeah, I'm formulating the question, that's why I'm still talking. Do you feel confident that RC Strategies would give us a review that would withstand legal review?
Essentially, the only reason why we're even proposing it at this point, because Michael and I have discussed what was our best option going forward here, is that RC Strategies, because there is no one that specializes in it that anyone can find, RC Strategies is the best bet, is the best option that not only we have available, that other municipalities had available, and that's why they were chosen. So I would be confident that yes, based off their previous experience, in the conversations I've had with them on how they review it through various lenses, I think we would get a very good opinion back. I preface my comments because based off what they've said and my experience, there isn't anyone that will be able to do specifically what we need them to be able to do. And if there is, RC Strategy says they would be able, if they can find them, then that would be an extra cost.
Follow up to that. Yeah. What would be the turnaround on their review?
They said they can do it fairly quickly, but it won't ever be fast enough for this season. That's why none of the options had it. It will always be next season regardless.
Are you finished your questioning? Okay, then Councillor Halliburton, please.
Thank you, through me. So the other municipalities that you talked to, have they also had this RC review done?
So one municipality for sure that I've talked a lot with was Kenora, used RC Strategies to do their ice allocation policy. They were specifically looking at it to review it from a gender equity standpoint. They had a completely different situation than what we're dealing with. They had a senior hockey group that came into Kenora, bumped out the girls from their ice time to a non-prime time ice time, and RC Strategies reviewed their policy about how all that happened. So that's not happening here, but that's what the type of experience that RC Strategies has.
So follow up to that, were they able to resolve the situation then? Is this something that they offer opinion and it helps to review or resolve the situation?
Deputy Mayor Wilson, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I just want to go back to the conversation around the exponential excess of requests versus what we actually have available, and it getting to the point where it's just a discussion among user groups. So if the existing user groups say they don't need anything less and can't make any adjustments, is there a scenario where West Oxford Inferno only gets 1 hour? Or does the policy, like, I guess what I'm getting at is the policy basically gives some organizations 100% of what they've requested and other organizations almost nothing. And so was there any consideration to the fact that, like, we have way too many requests, and so can there be a more fair approach to that conversation that gives, maybe you don't get 100%, but you get 80, and it gives room for other organizations to get 20%? Like, I guess I'm just, like, if we know we have way less than we need from now till we make a decision on a second pad, this disparity will come up every single year. And I don't see a scenario where user groups ask for less ice. And so is West Oxford Inferno never getting more than an hour until other user groups give up their ice?
And so there's a couple things here. So one, West Oxford Inferno, now that they have got their rights back because they are a regular user group, are now part of the discussion. And when you follow the policy, they have more rights than adult groups do. So if you were to follow the policy, they would get preferential treatment over adult ice time. So your Friday night men's hockey could potentially be impacted to allow, because the ice allocation policy gives preference to youth sports, so there is room within the ice allocation policy itself to find ice time. And then it is also not true to say that some groups get 100% of what they ask for, because Ingersoll District Minor Hockey asks for a lot more than what they get. So yes, they will take whatever they can get, but they also ask for more than what we're able to provide.
So as we tried to come to a path forward here, with Councillor Van Kootenbossen's has the motion. So I would say that if we have questions, to try to form that. Again, because due to a lack of infrastructure, and it's not just unfortunately it's not one of those ones that's easily aggregate more onto. You need a pad, or you can't just create 0.5 of a pad. It's pretty useless. So we're not going to be able to get to a perfect scenario, probably ever, even with 2 pads, because we're going to have more stuff. So I guess the thing I'm saying tonight is we try to come to something tonight so we can move forward for the user groups and towards making a decision on what we want to have happen with the policy. So if there's questions towards that, certainly we want to have those answered. Other words, I will entertain a motion, and we can have some debate on that motion. Councillor Hallerood, please.
I just want to ask a basic question. Is it possible to have a formula based on everyone's ask? Depends on how much you ask for, you get, say, 50% of what you ask for. Is there a way that can be a simple formula applied to everyone based on what they need?
So I would say on my assessment of reaching out to all these other municipalities and looking at their ice allocation policies, that's not really happening anywhere for me to be able to draw from, to be able to help here. Like, it's not a practice that's used. What is used is the rules in the ice allocation policy to determine who gets what.
Yeah, follow up, but that's what we're trying to change, right? So that there is more inclusivity. So if someone hadn't asked for, say, 80 spots and somebody hadn't asked for 40 spots, but they both got 50%, that would kind of be equitable, don't you think?
Just to follow, it may be equitable, but it might not be usable for either group, because they may not be able to run their operation. Either group may not be able to run their operations off of that kind of policy. And I think that's where this gets very complicated very fast, is that, yeah, I'll keep my comments to when we get to the discussion point, but I hear where you're coming from. Councillor Van Kootenbossen's. Put one on the, absolutely.
Perfect. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hughes, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receives reports CS-007-25 as information, and that Council directs staff to proceed with option 3. Option 3 is approve staff hiring RC strategy at a cost of $12,500 to be drawn from the legal reserves to conduct a legal review of town's ice allocation policy and provide presentation to Council. Current ice allocation policy to be used for the 2025-2026 season. Sorry.
So,
I was reading that differently beforehand, and I just, as I read it out loud, I realized that it's not what I wanted.
okay.
Option, sorry, my apologies.
So we we can,
It is option 2 that I want to go with, my apologies, because I want us to move forward with the ice allocation policy. So it's option 2 to approve the updates to the ice allocation policy as rewritten and approve staff to hire RC Strategies at a cost of $12,500 to be drawn from the legal reserves to conduct legal review of town's ice allocation policy for the 2026-27 season and provide a presentation to council.
okay. And Councillor Hughes, you're still okay with seconding that?
Yeah, I'm still okay with seconding that.
Okay. Councillor Van Kouten-Boston, as the mover, would you like to speak to that?
I would, thank you. So I apologize, I got confused on whether it was the updated version or the old version, and that's my fault. So thank you for allowing me to correct myself on that respect. I think that we should move forward and updating what we have. I think that RC review strategy, RC doing the strategy and doing the review is needed to see if there is something more that we can do. My hope is this, though, that all the user groups, when they came together the last time, were able to find it and be able to help out each other and allowing everyone to have a little bit more ice time. And I'm hoping and praying that that's exactly what can happen again. Girls hockey is growing at a high rate, absolutely. I can speak from experience that there are 5 new Inferno teams for this year, 5 more than what there was last year. And why is that? Because the girls are now having to try out for house league teams. There's that much of a demand. And I went and talked to parents about, why are you having your girls come and play with Inferno? And it's because they're finding it's rougher with the boys, and that's okay. That's what hockey is about. It's about being rougher. I've seen rougher at girls' hockey games at sometimes than boys. I know that Ingersoll Minor Hockey is co-ed, and I fully recognize that. There are some girls out there that want to play co-ed, and they should be allowed to do that. Absolutely, I love it. It's great. But there are girls out there that want to play with other girls, and I fully support that as well. And Inferno made mistakes along in the past, just like every organization has made mistakes in the past. They sucked it up. They got an hour of ice time last year from Ingersoll Minor Hockey, and they were very happy to be able to get that. Absolutely. They have gone to every single center and asked for more time. And they're hoping that they'll be able to support the 5 extra teams that they have managed to get together. They have taken in girls that were cut from Woodstock, girls that were cut from Tillsonburg. So there are girls teams already coming in, but they're still keeping as much as they can. They're trying to do what they can. So I speak by a parent, absolutely. I'm still willing to put my foot in my mouth and say, I'll take a 6 a.m. on a Saturday. Absolutely. However, we have to have the coach to be able to go on that ice with them, because I'm not a coach and I don't skate. Having time during the week, before and after school, is detrimental for any organization. Whether you're a girl or a boy, you've got parents that work. We all have to work to be able to support our kids to be on the ice. So as much as we can say it's prime time, it's not prime time. There's no way that 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. is prime time. Neither is 4 to 5. Everybody has to work to support their kids. So I would really love to see that become non-prime time ice, because to me, that's not prime time, and we shouldn't be declaring it as prime time. So I've gone with 2 because I'm hoping that RC Strategies might be able to come in and help us out. But in actual fact, I'm just hoping that all of our user groups will be able to sit down at a table. To me, that should have been done before. I even question within this policy of whether June is soon enough. I've heard from many different organizations that they would love to know sooner than June. So that might be something that we hear from user groups, which I hope that, you're coming back to us and saying it needs to be in May, it needs to be in April, whatever the case might be. But I hope that we get some feedback on the new policy if that's the way that council goes with it. So I'm going for 2, and I hope that council will support me on that. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes is a seconder. Would you like to speak to it?
I have nothing further.
Further discussion? Councillor Hallery, please.
Just for the record, I definitely want to say that I like the idea of the updated policy. I just really wonder if we need to pay to get that formula or that solution from RC Strategies, seeing that we haven't really had a lot of use out from many municipalities. There are so many formulas that are used across North America to allocate ice, and I just wondered if, based on what we already did that was quite successful based on the teams that we had, we could actually now apply to the general population. We now have a National Hockey League for women, and there's definitely no doubt that there is an increased demand for it. Speaking from someone who is just outside of the whole hockey, just feeling like we need to play fair, I feel like just coming up with a formula that recognizes every team and gives them that allocation fairly. Considering teams and competition, of course, the formula will always solve these problems if we're doing the right. I feel like sometimes if we don't have enough data in Canada, we could perhaps look even to the States to see how they allocate ice, just because I'm not sure if giving 12,000 to another group of people that might just simply do the same research is worth it. But in my opinion, I'm very much for the new policy. I advocated for a new policy for sure, and I'm looking to make sure that this goes in effect quite quickly, but I'm just not comfortable with the extra cost for simple research.
Further discussion? Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. The motion referred to legal review, but it sounded like from staff we may or may not actually get legal review. And my concern last summer, and my concern continues to be that we unintentionally discriminate against certain user groups through the policy, whether we mean to do that or not, and whether we think it's discriminatory or not. The Kenora example that staff referenced, Kenora was threatened with legal action because of what they experienced. And so I don't want to hope and pray that people get the ice time that they want. I would want legal advice that ensures the policy is not intentionally or unintentionally discriminatory, or that there's legal implications for writing disproportionate use of the facility into a policy. Again, intentional or not. If I'm hearing West Oxford Inferno gets 1 hour a week, that's disproportionate, and the policy has written that into place. And I would want legal advice on whether that's acceptable. And so I really hope we can find someone who can give us legal advice on how this policy plays out, because we are not the only municipality going through this, and other municipalities have experienced legal implications of their policy, and I wouldn't want us to be in that position either. So if maybe someone doesn't specialize in ice allocation litigation, but I'm sure we can find a lawyer that could give us advice on whether the policy is discriminatory or not, and that's all I would be looking for in the process. So if council is passing a motion that references legal review, I would expect to get legal review at some point.
Kyle.
The only thing I want to preface and say is that, I guess it doesn't really matter, but I would agree that yes, it's not a legal review, because the best of what we can do is what RC Strategies can do. But I would say, in the example given, that if West Oxford Inferno only gets 1 hour of ice time, I would say the way that the ice allocation policy was written and these updates are written, that scenario would be impossible, because they have more rights than some other user groups do. So in that discussion, they would take preferential treatment. As I said, they would take preference over any adult user group. So if they needed more ice time, that's where it would come from.
So, Mr. Grace, please.
Yeah, the point about the resolution, the way it's passed, is valid. My suggestion would be for council, if you would like to, and I'm going to sort of interpret what I'm hearing, make a minor modification to this, What you may want to do, if you're doing option 2, is you approve the update for the ice allocation as rewritten, approve staff to hire RC Strategies at a cost of $12,500 to be withdrawn from the legal reserves to conduct a review, and then you approve staff to conduct a legal review on top of that for the 2026-2027 season. That legal review would come out of the CIO's legal fund, so we can ensure that that's in the budget for the 2026 year, and then you would get both those reviews. And my best advice would be, I think that's a prudent way to go. So that would be my suggestion.
So just to speak to this is that the town has one ice pad. There's only so many hours in a day. We have various people who want to use the ice pad. And there's never going to be a perfect scenario because, let's face it, if there was 24 hours and they were all 5 o'clock, that would probably be the most, we're all in the same boat mostly when we have hours available to use things. So we do have to have a policy on how that is done, and many others, everybody else who has a ice pad as well, or they're 1, 2, 5, whatever, how many they are, has an ice allocation policy, because we know it's not like we get to a certain number and the issue goes away of wanting more ice, and who can use it at a certain time. I'm fine with getting a review from RC Strategies. I'm fine with not getting an actual legal review because, for much of my knowledge, there hasn't been that type of case, because when I look at how the definitions are, none of them are based off gender. Absolutely none of these are based off gender. They're based off age groups. We don't control what organizations form and how they form and who they use. The only thing we control is the ice there, and is it to be used by the public, and what percentage of Ingersoll residents qualify as a user group. At the end of the day, we do need every organization there to come to the table with the realization that there's not going to be a perfect scenario for everybody to get what they want, and that there is different needs for there. And I would ask that every group, regardless of what they are, have that realization that even when we get a second pad, there's going to instantly be an ask for more ice time than what's available. And that we're always going to have to compete for a limited responsibility. Let's face it, the new arena is $38 million, an extra pad is $10 million, and it doesn't happen overnight, and 95% of the residents of Ingersoll don't use it. So it's a luxury item that we want to have. We know we need to replace what we have, and it's a way of life here, in that it is a nice thing to have, to be able to use, but we have to share to get along. And so I agree with the comments of, when we get in a room, the best thing to do is if we can try to accommodate at the first thing, and then if we have this policy that says this is how the town will, if we have to come to it, we'll decide who gets user groups. Those user groups will affect. And I would hope, because the policy doesn't say in here one thing about gender whatsoever, it would say that it would be based off of nonprofit guided or constitutional bylaws, 21 years of age and younger. As you said, some of those user groups now would have more than, say, to an adult sports group or a regular user group or occasional user group. They're all definitions, but that's why we have a policy to take over. The best thing we can do is try to work together for a limited resource with the money that we have to try to get as much people on the ice. And let's face it, it's all regional. These facilities are regional. When I was a kid, I had to go to Embro, I had to go to Tempsford. This is not going to change, because we can't afford to build these facilities everywhere we need them at the amount we need them. It's just not possible. So I don't think there's going to be a perfect policy. I don't have a problem with RC Strategies looking at it. I'm not expecting huge things, because, again, we've seen local municipalities update their ice allocation policies. Others have used that, but I'm willing for that. To me, the time to get a legal review is when there's a legal question on the table. And you never know what the legal question is going to be until someone makes it. I don't think that we're being discriminatory. I think it's just there's an infrastructure availability challenge of there. And when it comes to like, it takes a certain amount of things to make an organization function. And, well, I guess my thing is, if you're not gonna use the ice, don't take it. Just to take it. Like, let's be fair with people. If you can run your organization with less ice, please let other people use that ice, and so the most people can get on the thing at the same time as possible, and we can make it there. If at all possible, if you can use the times that aren't prime, please use them, because we're all paying for that ice to be there, whether someone's using it or not. And maybe it's not young kids, maybe it's older kids, or something that can be done. It is possible to use it. I know, I went to 6 a.m. practices out of town, in town. Was it fun? Yeah, because I was a kid, I didn't care, I got to play hockey. My parents didn't like it at all. So we're not going to get, like, the fact that we're going to spend $38 million on a new facility and then $10 million on another pad to have it sit there and go, well, that double pad sit empty is not an appealing thing to me. So I would say that, is this the best way forward to get people on the ice this year? Yes, and have RC Strategies look at it, make sure it's within what their experience level would say is, give us how to tweak it and move it forward towards we get to another place. But I think that's where I stop. Councillor Hallery, please.
Thank you. Just to respond to some things that you've said, we have to recognize that when we talk about the policy, it is already recognizing that there is need for inclusivity. The regular criteria in which it's allocated age and time and nonprofits did not take into consideration the new wave of demand from a sect of, the sector of, gal hockey, which is why this review is important, and I agree. But the thing is, if that existing policy already took into consideration that there is now more demand from a gender equity perspective, I think it is worth recognizing that just having hockey teams grouped into age groups or nonprofit status or not are not being equitably distributed, which is why we're here in the first place, to make sure that the policy determines that a specific group that wasn't always there now gets access to equitable time. It's not equal time, it's equitable time, because they now need more time than they didn't have before. So I would say if our policy already includes them in looking at them that way, I honestly am more for a legal review of what our policy update is without paying for a review for RC Strategies to tell us what to do. I think if we're more careful, we should get a legal review on what our policy states, and that's kind of where my position is. I'm just trying to avoid paying that extra money.
Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens? No? Okay, sorry.
Just holding my head.
Sorry. Sorry, there was a recommendation by the CAO, Mr. Graves, about the wording in the actual to recognize that this would not be a legal review because staff and RC Strategies with the research has said that they have not been able to locate a firm that can be able to do a legal review. So it would be a policy review by RC Strategies. We can either change the wording or we can have an understanding, if everybody's under the understanding of what that is that kind of,
So you want
sorry.
to have the...
Sorry, no, I'm just saying that it's your motion, there's a motion on the floor. The way it is right now, it says legal review, but RC Strategies is not a legal firm. So if your intention is to just have RC Strategies do what Kyle described as what they can do, then I would recommend taking legal review out and just leave review. Or if you're wanting that to say legal review, then it's made clear that that's what you're asking for that to do. That this thing, this is clarification for staff, so we know what council's.
So we'll remove conduct a review?
Sorry,
So
Mr. Graves.
maybe if I could,
So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to take a recess. So no, we're going to do more than that because we're going to go into public meetings because we're past 7 o'clock. So I'm going to ask, so we're going to lay this on the table and that we're going to take a 5-minute recess and come back at 7:15. And we're going to start we'll start our delegations and public meetings, and then we'll pick this up afterwards. And then we'll have some time to think about this and get through. Okay? Perfect. A motion to recess, please. Moved by Councillor Youth, second by Councillor Halleru. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. If we could reconvene and get ready, we will get back on this agenda.
Under assumption that I am.
Okay. Okay, we'll reconvene the meeting, and just to make sure that we're procedurally right, I will ask for a motion to lay the current business on the table. Is there a mover for that? And then we will, thank you, Councillor Bowman, a seconder. Councillor Van Kootenbossen's discussion. This just allows us to formally move on to our next line, and we'll come back right after. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, that takes us to, we're going to go down to public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act, which was scheduled for 7 p.m. And technically, we're still in the 7 p.m. hour, so we're good. So I will get my list here. Okay. So I will declare the public meeting to be open. This meeting is being constituted as a public meeting held under the Planning Act to consider proposed amendments to Consolidated Zoning Bylaw 0441-60. Any person in attendance, including those participating virtually, may make a presentation to council in support or opposition to the zone change applications. Individuals who wish to receive the decision of council and any application being considered this evening must sign the record of attendance outside of council chambers or submit a written request to the attention of Town Clerk Danielle Richard at danielle.richard@ingersoll.ca. The Ontario Land Tribunal has the power to dismiss the appeal under subsection 25 if an appellant has not provided counsel with oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions prior to the bylaw being passed under this section. The application to be heard this evening concerns application ZN 6-24-04, 28 Moffat Avenue. Freure, is that correct? I'm going to say Freure on Clair Creek Village, on Clair Creek Incorporated. I apologize if I did get the pronunciation wrong. Does any member of council have a conflict of interest on the application to be considered? Seeing none, has the clerk received any additional correspondence on the application that is not being noted on the agenda?
No, we have not.
Thank you very much. I now request Planner Heather St. Clair to provide an overview of the application and explanation of the requested zoning amendment. Welcome, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as noted, the town and the county have received applications for amendments to an approved draft plan of subdivision, as well as an official plan amendment application and zone change, and an extension of the draft plan of subdivision to facilitate the creation of 83 new lots for single detached dwellings and 96 new lots for street fronting townhouses, for a total of 179 new residential parcels, whereas 104 residential parcels for single detached dwellings were originally approved for the subject lands. The amended draft plan of subdivision still proposes the extension of Winders Trail and 3 new local streets, including a future road extension now to Walker Road on the east and a walkway to the Woodlands block on the west side. The existing open space block, which contains the woodland, will remain unchanged. So as a brief history, the subject lands, which are located south of Moffat Avenue, east of Harris Street, were part of a previous residential draft plan of subdivision that was granted approval in May of 2007. However, this phase of the subdivision approval lapsed in 2010, and a subsequent approval was granted in June of 2022, which lapsed in May of this year. And as such, the request for extension has now been included as part of this process. And the Planning Act does allow for 1 extension to be granted for a subdivision approval if it's beyond the lapsing date, provided that it's not more than 5 years beyond the lapsing date. The subject lands are designated as low-density residential in the county's official plan, as well as environmental protection. And the application for official plan amendment has been requested to establish a special policy area for the low-density residential portion of the property to increase the maximum net residential density from 30 units per hectare, that's 12 units per acre, to 36 units per acre, or 36 units per hectare, or 15 units per acre, to facilitate the proposed number of residential parcels. No changes or any development is proposed to the portion of land that's designated as environmental protection, which again is located on the west side of the property. The associated application for rezoning has been requested to rezone the subject lands from R1 and R2 to 3 separate special residential R2 zones for the proposed single detached dwellings and a special residential type 3 zone for the proposed street fronting townhouses with a number of site-specific provisions. So specifically, it's proposed that lots 1 through 39 on the west side and 77 through 82 are proposed to be zoned. The site-specific provisions would include a reduction from the minimum lot area requirement from 345 square meters to 300 square meters per lot, a reduction to the minimum lot frontage from 11.5 meters to 10.3 meters, and an increase to the maximum lot coverage allowance from 40% lot area to 43% lot area. It's proposed that lots 62 through 76 and 83 would have a second R2 special zoning that would allow for a reduction to the minimum required rear yard from 7.5 meters to 7.4 meters, and an increase to the maximum lot coverage allowance from 40% to 47%. And the third R2 special zoning would be applied to lots 40 through 61 on the east side of the property, which would be a combination of both of these site-specific provisions. The site-specific R3 zoning would apply to the lots in the middle for street-fronting townhouses, and those site-specific provisions would include a reduction to the minimum interior side yard setback for an end unit from 3 meters to 2.75 meters, an increase to the maximum lot coverage allowance from 40% lot area to 55% lot area, and a reduction to the minimum required landscape open space area from 30% to 25%. And again, no changes or any new development is proposed for the existing open space zoned portion of the property, which contains the woodlot. The subject lands are approximately 9.2 hectares in size and are currently vacant, and surrounding land uses include existing single detached dwellings to the north, planned residential development to the east and south, and vacant lands regulated by the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority to the west. In support of the proposal, the applicants have submitted a planning justification report, a functional servicing report, a transportation impact study, a retrofit of the stormwater management facilities justification report, as well as a hydrology model, which has been peer reviewed by the town. These studies are in addition to the previous environmental impact study, geotechnical investigation, and noise study that were prepared as part of the 2022 approvals. 2 letters from the public have been received as a result of our public circulation process, which are attached to the agenda. One was from the neighboring property owner to the east, indicating general support of the proposal as it will facilitate future development and the extension of Walker Road, and requesting that future development be considered as part of our overall review of this process. And 1 letter from the public was received outlining concerns with the proposed intensification of the subject lands and the impact that it may have on the character of the area and impacts to property values, as well as impacts that construction may have in the area with respect to noise, disruption, and safety. So overall, the staff report does provide an overview of the policies and zoning considerations that will apply to the application, and a follow-up report with staff comments and a recommendation will be presented at a subsequent meeting to council, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Does the applicant or the representative have any comments to make concerning the application? Please come forward to the lectern, and we'll make sure that your microphone is on.
Good evening, council and staff. My name is Rachel Haggett, and I am an urban planner at Stantec Consulting, and I am here representing Freure Homes for the Moffat Avenue subdivision. I'm also joined with some fellow team members and the owner, and we have a short presentation to provide an overview of the project. The subject site is located on the eastern limits of the town of Ingersoll and is 9.35 hectares in area. The site is currently vacant, partially pre-graded, and development ready. This draft plan of subdivision shown here was previously approved in 2022, but was never built. Since then, ownership has changed hands, with Freure Homes being the new owner. Freure Homes is a local, family-owned business that has been building homes since 1954 with a proven track record. With Freure now owning the property, they wanted to make minor changes to the approved draft plan to make lotting more consistent with their units and to introduce more variety of housing types. Shown on the screen here is the revised subdivision. This design introduces a variety of housing types with single-family homes around the perimeter and freehold townhouses in the interior. The overall street layout remains the same, with the only changes being related to lotting. The lots backing onto the existing development to the north have matched lot widths for a smoother transition and fence lines. The proposed development also retains the existing 2-hectare woodlot with connection for future walkway. A cluster of trees located at the rear of the westernmost townhouses will also be preserved. Sidewalks are proposed throughout the subdivision to promote the flow of the subdivision and active transportation network. The subdivision has 179 total units, with 83 single-family lots and 96 freehold townhouse units. The total site area is 9.35 hectares, with almost 23% of it being environmental open space. Part of our application process is an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment. The official plan is shown on the screen here, and the subject site is currently designated as residential, with residential also to the north and future growth to the east and west. The existing environmental protection area on the west of the site is the existing woodlot and is to be retained. As part of our official plan amendment, we are seeking to increase the density from 12 units per acre to 15 units per acre, a minor increase in overall site density. This increase in density helps support housing variety and affordability with the addition of townhouses and making better use of the existing services. A zoning bylaw amendment is also part of our application process. Shown on the screen here is the existing zoning of the subject site, which consists of R1 and R2 residential zoning and OS open space zoning. The proposal retains the existing OS zoning and introduces R2 and R3 zones with both with special provisions. The provisions being requested are to make the lotting more suitable for our custom units and work with the existing shape of the land and conditions of the site. Freure Homes is an experienced home builder with more than 15,000 units built to date and has a proven track record of delivering high-quality products. What is on the screen now is a sample of what can be expected on the site. Here are some single-family homes that Freure has developed in other areas. And here's an example of the type of townhouses that you can expect on the site. To support this development, a variety of reports and studies have been completed, including an environmental impact assessment or study, transportation impact study, engineering reports, and others listed on the screen. The engineering reports confirm that there is sufficient capacity in sewers and water services to the area, and the traffic study confirmed that the existing road network can support the traffic generated from this development without causing adverse effects of the surrounding area. That wraps up our presentation. Thank you all for your time this evening, and we are available to answer any questions from staff, council, or the public.
Thank you very much. I will now open this meeting to public comments from the public. This portion of the meeting provides the opportunity for individuals to speak to the application and have their comments considered by the planner and council before a report and recommendation on the requested zoning amendment is brought forward for a decision at a subsequent council meeting. Any person from the audience who wishes to provide comments in support or opposition to the application may do so now by coming forward to the lectern and stating their name and address for the public record. Is there anybody from the audience who would like to speak to the application? Yes, please come forward. Yep. Welcome. And again, if you could just state your name and address, that would be much appreciated.
Okay, this is very nerve-wracking, but my name is Sheila Ott. I live at 47, you say Winders Trail. I just had two quick questions. What I didn't see on this thing, because the transport study, with the number of houses that are going to be increased, the only access out is Winders right now and Walker Road, is that correct?
Heather, would you like to?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so is there any plans to extend one of those roads out to Clark Road to relieve some of the construction traffic and the extra, at least 200 more vehicles that will be in the area? I don't have any opposition to the development. I'm just asking a question.
Oh, no, that's perfect. Thank you
you.
for doing so. I just want to make sure, sometimes we can get you an answer this evening, and sometimes we can't. 'Cause
That's fine.
I just
That's
don't want to
fair
put council or staff on the spot, but I'm seeing Heather is prepared to answer your question.
Okay,
So
thanks,
we'll
Heather.
certainly do so.
Through your worship to the question, it is intended that Walker Road would be extended to Clark Road,
Okay.
although we don't know the timing of that.
Okay,
as
that's
yet.
fair enough. And my only other question was about the, we back onto the stormwater management pond. Will this extra residential area impact the pond as it is right now? Right now, it's sitting a bit stagnant-y because it haven't had a lot of rain, but there's going to be, because of residential living, there's going to be extra runoff and waste from water from the construction area. It's unavoidable, I understand that. I don't know anything about the study and how that will affect the pond. Sorry.
No, that's no trouble. Yes, again, so the applicant has provided updated information because they are proposing to increase the density here, so that does have impact on the pond.
For sure.
So the applicant has provided updated hydrological and stormwater information, which the town has been reviewing. They've also been reviewing it through a third-party peer reviewer. So they're working with the Conservation Authority to address those concerns. And those would be, if approved, identified through conditions of final approval.
Okay, where would I find that information when the time came then, please?
Through your worship. That information is not generally publicly available, but we're happy to provide it. If you would like to schedule a time to come in sometime, we can go
Okay,
through
I
it
just want to
together.
know, like, are they going to make it bigger, or is it going to be dredged, or, you know what I mean, just to handle the extra overflow from the lands, that's all.
Yes, perhaps our Director of Engineering might be in a better position
I
to
know it's a lot to
speak
ask,
to-
but
And
when
it's
you
possible
live...
that we may not be able to get that information to you this evening, but
No,
certainly.
that's fine. It's just that when you live there, you want to know what's happening, because we
No,
live
absolutely.
there because we chose that spot
No,
for
very,
obvious reasons.
very, very much understood. And I just want to make sure that, yeah, if we can't get you,
No,
if staff can't provide an answer
that's
tonight,
fine.
then
It was
there's
just a couple of
certainly,
questions
be
that
able to do that. But I will
I
turn
had.
over to Director.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, through your worship. There would be revisions to the pond that would be required, but
Okay.
at this point in the process, the details design of such wouldn't quite be known yet.
Okay.
But yeah, there would be modifications to that pond.
Okay,
for
it's just that
increased
we like
capacity.
to see it, and there's wildlife there, and that's part of the enjoyment of it. It's not like a lot of stormwater ponds that are all fenced up. It's very natural looking, and it's quite enjoyable. So that was all my questions. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. And I know it can be nerve-wracking, but, you know, we're all neighbors here. So I encourage everybody to come up and have their say, and you did an excellent job. And this is what it's for, is to have that input. So thank you for. Absolutely. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to the application? Seeing none, members of council now have the opportunity to ask any questions about the application. However, they are not to offer any comments at this time. Questions from council on the application? Councillor Hughes, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I'm just going to throw these questions out there. So the size of the homes I see are going to be approximately, 1,900 to 2,500 square feet, single-family homes. The size of the townhomes, what size would that be, square footage? 16? 14 to 16? Okay. Thank you. I had a question very similar to our last presenter was, or our last resident, was
Sorry,
the
Councillor,
traffic.
are you directing these to the applicant? I just want to, if we could, if they're going to be the applicant, I just ask them to come up to the
Yeah, okay.
microphone. In other
I'll-
words, we can't have it, it's not on the record, it doesn't pick
Right.
it up on the record. So.
I'll be directing these to the applicant then.
Okay, so if we could have a representative of the applicant, who's ever best suited to answer the questions. I know it may not be known yet, but if we just have it on, so everybody at home can hear as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody, council, staff, and the public. My name's Alex Brown. I'm here from Stantec Consulting, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant.
Excellent, thank you. So again, with the traffic, as the last resident said, that there's 179 new homes going in there. The traffic study probably has not been done yet, or has been done?
So the traffic study has been completed by a professional traffic engineer. The modeling that is completed includes a development that's immediate in the area and future projections to the year 2032. And based on the findings of that report, there is no anticipated impacts to the existing road infrastructure, and the intersection should be available to maintain with that traffic.
Okay, no problem. And kind of on the same scenario with the traffic is the parking in the area. I believe this council's been very hard-nosed when it comes to the level of parking that has been allotted to certain new developments, and by adding in another 179 homes that are in this area, obviously our minimum is 1.5 cars per laneway. How are you going to look at or deal with the scenario when we end up with very similar out Owen Street, where a lot of people bring their trailers home in the summertime, and then there ends up being a lot of parking on the street, as well as visitor parking for the increased buildings in the center 3 islands. Do you have a plan in regards to parking in that regards?
Yes, I can speak to this. So if you, we don't have them on the screen now, but if we looked at the examples of housing form that would be built in the area, in general, the single-family homes would all be proposed to have double-car garages, which would also translate to a double-car driveway. So houses on their own will have at least 4 spaces per unit on their property. Okay. And then in terms of street parking, the local bylaws require driveway width to be a maximum of 50% of the lot frontage. That would allow for the remaining 50% or more within the street to allow for street parking that would fall within the standard regulatory environment for parking.
Okay. And finally, what kind of a timeline are you looking at for development?
We would love to get in the ground tomorrow. So right now, we're just following due process. The sooner we can get in, the happier we are. We're ambitious with this project, so we're looking forward to working with the community to make this happen.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Further questions from council? Deputy Mayor Wilson, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. My first question is for the applicant, and then a question for staff. Your previous colleague mentioned an arborist report. Did the findings of that report inform anything in the design that you've presented today, or was it just tree count to calculate the tree replacement required?
The arborist report specifically is more along the lines of tree inventory analysis, what's there, establishing what's on site. The EIS itself, separate but related, outlined environmental constraints. So as we mentioned, there's the 2-hectare woodlot that is being retained completely, as well as a small cluster of trees in the westernmost townhouses, so it'll be in the back of those townhouses. Those are existing on site and will remain. And then beyond that, the site has been pre-graded, so it is fairly vacant in its current condition.
Further question?
Thank you. And then just a question for staff. There was some correspondence from the abutting landowner with some requests in it. Are those reasonable requests? Is that something staff will consider?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Wilson. Yes, so staff are aware of future development plans from the landowner to the east, and we have been working with them to address some of those concerns, make sure that that the main issues such as that they outlined we're servicing, and grading, so making sure that everything's sized appropriately to accommodate future development, which has always been the case for these approvals.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Okay, Councillor Van Kupenbosens, please.
There was a question earlier, and I guess I'll direct this to the planner, question earlier about Walker Road and its extension possibly out to Clarkside Road. Who would be responsible for that extension out to Clark Road? Would that be the municipality or would that be the landowner themselves? I'm assuming it's owned by another landowner at this point in time, but it's my assumption.
And through your worship to Councillor Van Kupenbossen, that would be the responsibility of the developer as they come in. So there's a few landowners that exist between the existing end of Walker Road and Clarkside Road. So as they get developed, each of those developers would be responsible for the establishment of that road. But staff would ensure that there is a connection from Walker Road to Clark Road as part of those future developments.
Further questions? I have a couple. One to, I'll just direct them to staff, and if they're better suited elsewhere, please feel free to redirect them. Parkland dedication, I'm assuming that the open space is being, is that the parkland dedication piece, or are we receiving funds for the parkland dedication?
At this time, I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that, but it will be outlined in the subsequent staff report.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, we're refraining from comment on that one. And the other one, just for clarification, no, Councillor Hughes touched on it. There is no request for a reduction from the parking requirements, correct?
That's correct. As the applicant had indicated, the zoning bylaw requires 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit for a single detached dwelling and a townhome. So essentially that works out to 2 spaces for each of those lots. The applicants will be required to demonstrate that they have 2 spaces for each of those dwellings as part of their subsequent building permit approval process, but this can be achieved through private driveways and private garages.
Excellent. Any further questions? Seeing none, if there are no further comments or questions, then the public meeting for this application is now concluded. The applicant will now be scheduled to come before council at a subsequent meeting during which the planner's report and recommendation will be considered. As a reminder, if any member of the audience wishes to be notified of the decision of council in respect to the zoning bylaw amendments, they must submit a written request to the town clerk, Danielle Richard, at danielle.richard@ingersoll.ca. The clerk must provide notice of council decision to all those who request a copy within 15 days after the day the bylaw is passed. The Planning Act provides for an appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal for a decision made by the town of Ingersoll within 20 days of the issuing of the notice of decision. Only specified persons, public bodies, registered owners of land to which the plan may apply, the requester to amend the plan, and the minister may appeal the decision of the town to the Ontario Land Tribunal, excluding the minister. Any party wishing to making an appeal must have made written or oral submissions to council at a public meeting. Please note, third-party appeals, anyone who's not a specified person or body, do not have the right to appeal the decision for a zone change amendment to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And this is a note, we do things a little bit differently here in the town of Ingersoll as far as public meetings and planning applications. We have a separate planning application meeting so we can have that input from the community. Gives you a chance for applicants and to hear that input as well. And then we have it come through as a planning report. It allows time for that to be considered by the planners and then be fully incorporated. I know it slows things down a little bit, but having that input is important and it creates better results. So I think that's just to provide that clarification on how things happen in the town of Ingersoll and why we do it. So with that, that will conclude our public meeting for that, and we will move on to our next, our delegations and presentations. Oh yes, going too fast. Councillor Van Kupenbosens, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilson, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receives report number CP 2025-162 as information.
Thank you very much. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now we'll go on to put delegations and presentations. Ingersoll Safe Cycling Committee, Mr. Scott Nesbitt, please. And Sandra Lawson. Oh, we have three. And Andrea Zarello, last but not least. Welcome.
Welcome. Worshipful Sir and Councilors, good evening, and thanks for listening to our presentation. My name is Scott Nesbitt, and I'm the chair of the Ingersoll Safe Cycling Committee. And this evening, we're going to present the Ingersoll Safe Cycling Strategic Plan for 2026 to 2030. The objective of the presentation is seeking council approval. The vision of this plan is to live in a safe cycling community in which all citizens are participating actively. Our mission statement, make Ingersoll an inviting and safe town for all cyclists. This will be achieved through engineering, education, enforcement, and evaluation. There is a committee structure that is being looked at for this, and some of that structure will be town of council representatives, engineering representatives, parks and recreation or community services representative. We'll have a chair, co-chair, secretary, committee members at large. We work with Southwestern Public Health. We work with the OPP. In fact, we have an officer on our committee. Subcommittees would be Share the Road, Bicycle Friendly Communities, Program Special Events, Bicycle School Safety Program, Strategic Planning, Bylaw Recommendations. Now this plan is in pillars, 5 pillars: engineering and planning, education, awareness and promotion, encouragement and partnership, enforcement, and number 5 pillar is evaluation, monitoring, and recommendation. And as I said, there's 3 members from this committee. So Sandra?
My name is Sandra Lawson. I've been on this committee since its inception in 2013. And I'm going to talk about the engineering and planning mainly because I am and was the town engineer and was very involved in this plan in its inception. So we are looking at strategies and objectives for the plan as far as engineering and planning, and we were working closely with the engineering department as well as Oxford County's engineering department. So we're looking at developing a cycling master plan or implementing a cycling master plan and working with engineering to do that. We have a cycling master plan that was developed in 2013, and engineering has been working on that and has is about 50% complete in looking at it and is looking at presenting something to us at the committee in the fall. They're looking at an implementation plan as well as how to deal with our cycling infrastructure, maintaining our cycling infrastructure. We're going to be referencing the Ingersoll's master plan as well as Oxford County's master plan. So we're working with, because we have a lot of streets that are county done. So they have their own infrastructure, and we try to meld with them, and also the roadways like Charles Street, Ingersoll Street, King Street, that all come into the city, into the town, and they have cycling routes on them as well, so we're working with them. We're also looking at working with the town on their capital projects and where we can implement more cycling routes in town, and that is also part of the cycling master plan. And we've had very good results with the engineering department on Pemberton Street as a good example this year. Our last strategy is, of course, to have a good maintenance program. and being able to do maintenance and working with our Public Works Department for signage and line painting and maintaining those cycling trails, because we are finding more and more that people are using them during the winter to get to work and things like that. I'll turn it over to Andrea.
Our next pillar is education, awareness, and promotion. And we'd like to do this, we see this being done by educating citizens about Ingersoll, cycling in Ingersoll, cycling routes, programs that are offered, as well as cycling safety awareness. So we envision doing this through working with the communications department with the town, through social media and printed media as well. Also ensuring that events and activities are shared and made aware to the public as well. And partnering with community organizations and businesses to implement safe cycling in the town of Ingersoll, and also partner with schools and bicycle safety programs through the schools. And as well, our last strategy, promoting driver education awareness programs, because drivers as well are a factor of ensuring safe cycling in the town.
Our third pillar is encouragement and partnerships, and that's very important because our objective is to make sure that we have a good cycling infrastructure within the town, as well as being able to work with both the county and the town. So some of our strategies are working with organized cycling groups, because they're the ones that use the cycling, and to make sure that we meet all their needs. Second is to encourage cyclists to ride their bikes to community events, so have parking, valet parking for bicycles that is safe for them, so they don't feel comfortable bringing their bike to a community event. We have done that in the past, where we've had our OPP representative using, because we have a OPP cycling unit within our OPP, so they can bike to the community event and have a valet parking and sponsor that for that. Partnering with stakeholders to make sure we have bike amenities. We've done a lot with bike racks in the town, especially in the downtown core. We've had bicycle repair stations, museum, different places like that. Plus, we've been partnering with the museum itself as a core place for people to come for cycling information, as well as with businesses, to make sure that we have a number of bicycle-friendly businesses in town that give out brochures and support people coming into town and having space for them to park and go to their business. And through the media, we've been able to promote that as well. Create and maintain programs for special events with the community. So we've looked at our new cycling coordinator that we have with the community services, has done an amazing job of promoting different things within the community with all our partners. We've had bike giveaways. Just this past weekend, we had our family cycling day in cooperation with Kiwanis on the farmers market. So doing things with other local groups. Encourage participation in tourism. We'll partner with municipalities in the County of Oxford. Just recently, in the month of May, we had the tandem bike ride come to Ingersoll, to the museum, and which was from the County of Oxford. So we're working with County of Oxford Tourism as well as Ingersoll Tourism to bring people into our town to see about, cycling, because we are a bicycle-friendly community.
Pillar number 4 is enforcement, to educate the community on bicycle safety, rules of the road, other factors that will improve traffic safety for cyclists and for vehicles. By this, we'll be reviewing the town's bicycle bylaws and policies, which I believe we did fairly recently when we were looking into e-bikes and what those definitions looked and whether our policies do need to be, if we have recommendations that the policies do need to be updated or the bylaws. Also, we're including with the representation from the Ingersoll OPP on the committee. They have then been able to receive training through the OPP and have cyclists OPP on patrol at events and just making them more accessible through the town. Also, just encouraging OPP to create education and enforcement programs to the community, partnering with them as closely.
Our last pillar, Pillar 5, is evaluation, planning, and volunteer recruitment. So to evaluate, plan, and recruit volunteers on a regular basis to ensure that the Ingersoll Safe Cycling Strategic Plan objectives, strategies, and actions are implemented. We consider submitting a Town of Ingersoll application to the Share the Road Cycling Coalition, bicycle-friendly communities, for review and evaluation. We've had a bronze rating. We might be able to go to a silver rating depending on the criteria and whether we meet that or not, but that can be considered. Determine the economic or tourism impact of safe cycling routes throughout the town of Ingersoll. And that's tourism, and I believe that we would meet with the Town of Ingersoll Economic Development Officer on a yearly basis to determine the impact of safe cycling routes throughout the town of Ingersoll. And the last one, obtain yearly feedback from the community on the programs and projects of the Ingersoll Safe Cycling Committee through the town's communication director. And that would provide opportunities through the social media surveys, etc., to obtain yearly feedback and input on safe cycling routes, bike amenities, signage, bike rides, education programs, etc. And that is the basic outline of our plan. That's it.
Well, thank you very much. I know the committee's been very busy. Safe Cycling Committee has always been extremely busy within the town, and certainly a lot of things there to consider and work upon for the committee for years to come. I want to thank them for being on a committee member for a long time. I want to thank them for working with staff to get the feedback and to work together to try to move things forward. So that's important. So the proof is in the pudding, as they say, with the many initiatives that they've went out there and spearheaded, the cycling coordinator, the bronze, the safe cycling community, the bike-friendly community downtown. It just goes on and on. There's a great dedicated group of people, and I thank you for that. I'll now open up to questions from council. Councillor Hughes.
I don't have any questions, but I do have a statement similar to yours, Mayor. I know I sit as a council rep on this board and our committee, and they are, excluding myself, one of the hardest working committees that I think I have sat on in this is 7 years that I've been on council. They do great work. They get along very well together. They brainstorm fantastic ideas. And you guys just bring a whole vibrancy to the whole program, and I hope we can get that silver designation this year or for next year. I'm looking forward to that. If not, hopefully maybe even just maintain our bronze, which would be spectacular as well. But I just want to thank you and for all the work you guys do and the commitment that you make to this committee. Thank you.
Councillor Hallery, please.
Yeah, Thank you. That was really a wonderful presentation. For someone not on the committee, I got a very good glance at what you're focused on. It's nice to have professionals on the board as well and have community members with a heart. So this really definitely, for anyone who doesn't know what the committee does, this was a really good overview. And it's nice to see that we're making progress and we're really in it. So thank you for the work you do.
What I'll say too is I'm the council rep on the Oxford Active Transportation Committee, and so we get a taste there of what's going on all across Oxford, and absolutely nowhere is there the knowledge and the dedication towards cycling and safe cycling, and to have that ability to share that throughout the county, and then receive feedback on other areas where other municipalities are working on is a great thing. But it's a source of pride to be able to share. People are amazed and overwhelmed by the amount of work that has transpired in Ingersoll on safe cycling, and that they can benefit from that without having to go down the same road. So it's a great thing that we can export and has a benefit for all of Oxford County residents, as you stated in some of the goals and strategies there of it. So it's a great thing, and I encourage anybody who's interested in serving on a committee to just even different council members just sit on a meeting. This is a wonderful job, and again, it's been very effective. So I know how much everybody has put time and effort into to make this happen, and it's certainly going to give the committee and future committee members things to work on and a goal to achieve. So that's a good thing. Deputy Mayor Wilson, please.
Thank you, Mayor Petrie, through you. You started your presentation by asking for council support of the strategic plan, but I believe tonight we will receive it as information, so I don't want you to take that as not being supportive of the plan. So I hope staff could speak a little bit to what we can expect to happen next with the effort you've presented tonight.
So you can expect more. No. I actually, when I first read this, and I saw enforcement in there, I thought you were targeting me specifically, meaning that I was needed to be enforced to ride my bike more. So, staff would like to review this over and talk about our teams, what this means for our teams and how we intend to implement this, and to comment specifically and give some feedback to the cycling committee before there's a full adoption. So we probably would just receive it as information at this time and then send something back to the committee in case there's any minor modifications, and then we would talk about a fulsome adoption.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Bowman, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive the delegation from the Safe Cycling Committee regarding the strategic plan as information.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. And now we'll move on to our next delegation, Trevor Whittingham from First Baptist Church, please. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Reverend Trevor Whittingham. I'm the pastor of First Baptist Church in Ingersoll. For the last 3 summers, we have hosted a summer sports camp where we have invited youth from the community ages 6 to 12 to participate in various sporting activities such as ball hockey, soccer, baseball, pickleball, and other team-building games. Our intention is to provide an opportunity and a place for youth to participate, grow, develop friendships, and just be kids in a fun environment. Each year, we would submit a request form to the town for the use of the park right next to the church, which is Yvonne Mott Memorial Park. However, this year, we noticed there was a fee of $375, which we weren't aware at the time when we planned for the summer camp. And of course, we didn't build that into the registration fee when we first sent the form out. We're requesting whether town council would consider waiving this fee. That is my request.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the delegation? Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens.
Good evening. Thank you for being here, Trevor. A quick question on what is the ages of the children that come to your camp, and what kind of cost are we talking about that you charge to each child?
So ages from 6 to 12, and the cost is $130 per individual. We also have a family rate, so it's lower depending on the number of kids from a family that are coming to the camp.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Councillor Hallery.
Yeah, thank you, welcome, and thanks for coming. So how long is the camp going for?
It's for a week, July 7th to the 11th,
So
from
the
9 till 3.
Okay, so that's fees for the week that you're being
Yes.
charged?
Yes,
Okay.
for the whole week, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Hughes, please.
Thank you and welcome. How do you promote to the rest of the community, or do you promote to the rest of the community, or do you only promote to within the church?
To the community.
To the
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
and how do you do that?
In fact, we do social media. We do it through, actually, we have the sign at the corner
Okay,
that
yes.
we have publicized, so we make it known. Social media, Instagram, the Village Voice. So we try to reach out to as much people as we can.
And what has been the response this year for your summer camp?
Very good. We have space for 25, and we're 21 at the moment, with 3 weeks before camp starts.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Councillor Bowman, are you willing to, do you have a motion you'd like to put forward?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, Councillor Bowman, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receives the delegation from Trevor Whittingham from First Baptist Church requesting a reduction or exemption to the town park rental fee, and that the town council approve the request and waive the rental fee for the use of the park. You're willing to second that, Councillor Hughes? Thank you.
Excellent. Discussion? Councillor Hallery, please.
I just wanted to say I truly thank you for actually getting in ahead of time before the summer holidays. I did notice that sign several times driving through, and I thought, nice. So I think it's for a lot of town organizations to know that parents are already having nightmares about summer and what to do, and, so this is nice and timely, so thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes our delegations and presentations. So we will go back up to our special staff report, and we will continue on with an ICE allocation special report where we left off. And Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens, there was some discussion ahead of time, so I will turn to you.
Thank you. So I don't know how to, I didn't ask that question, but can I make it a friendly amendment to my own motion?
I would prefer an amendment, a true amendment.
A true amendment?
Yes.
So,
Since we have a motion on the floor at this
all
time.
right, so I'm going to ask, I'm going to move that, and it's seconded by Councillor Hughes, that we still stay with option 2, but the option 2 will read as follows. Approve the updates to the ICE allocation policy as rewritten, and approve staff to hire RC Strategies at a cost of $12,500 to be drawn from the legal reserves to conduct a review, and to direct staff to get a legal review of town's ICE allocation policy to be paid for by the CAO's legal budget for the 2026-27 season, and provide presentation to council.
Okay, and Councillor Hughes, you are seconding that. Okay, thank you. Discussion. Okay. I'll speak to it. I support the first 2 parts. I don't support the third part, because as we've heard that it's not maybe possible to do that, and I don't feel comfortable sending staff to be able to do something that's maybe not possible. So the only way I would support it is if council is prepared that staff may come back and saying that they cannot provide a legal review because they cannot obtain a legal review. So I would leave it open to that. Sorry, I'll go to the mover and the seconder. Sorry, Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens.
Thank you. So in discussions with our CAO, if he is unable to find a lawyer who can review it and get legal opinion, then he will bring that back to council I've been assured of that. So maybe I should have put that within the motion, but I was struggling to make sure of what we wanted in there. I understand where people are coming from, and I'm trying to do what's right for the entire community in that respect. So I think that we can trust staff to make sure that it's coming back to us. And if a legal review can't be found, if we can't find a lawyer who is able to do that, it will be brought back to council and told to us.
Okay, Councillor Halloran?
Well, considering the fact that we are trying to be as inclusive as possible, at this point, making sure that the policy does include everyone that is needing, I do agree now that we go with the RC strategies and hopefully, you know, have that become our go-to for reference, even if there is going to be a legal review. So I'm good with that.
Further discussion? None. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, sorry. Sorry, that was on the amendment.
Yes.
And so now we'll go to the amended motion. I caught myself at the last second there. Took a while for the brain to catch up. We're getting later in the evening. So, so now that we have the amended motion, which would be to approve the ICE allocation policy as rewritten and approve staff to hire RC strategies at a cost of $12,500 to be drawn from legal reserves to conduct a review of the policy, and that staff attain a legal opinion and provide that to council as it was written, and that's the interpretation. Does everybody clear on that? Discussion on the main motion, the amended motion. Councillor Hughes.
So I have a question for staff. If we vote against the main motion, does the amendment drop?
So if the motion is turned down, there's no motion on the floor.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion has been successfully amended, so it is the motion now. And so if what we vote now is on the full motion. Thank you. So, further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. So, thank you very much for all the discussion on that, and I'm glad we were able to give direction to staff. So, we'll now go to item number 6, OP-012-25, Asset Management Plan. Mr. Graves.
As council is aware, in Ingersoll, we're very proud of our asset management plan. We think we've been ahead of the curve for some time. It is the cornerstone of our success and our financial viability, having our infrastructure in a good place. So with that, we're very proud of where we're going. I'm going to turn it over to Matt and his team to present on where they'd like to go for the future.
Yes, thank you. Through your worship, this report this evening, as Michael's mentioned, is bringing forward the town's 2025 asset management plan. But I think my first order of business is introducing behind me Steve Scott, who's the town's asset management and GIS analyst, who put significant work into this plan, coming on board in January, getting up all a year's worth of condition data up to date and disposal of assets and getting up to speed with all the financing strategy. So I can deliver this update, but you can look forward to hearing from Steve in the future on future asset management plan updates. So yes, as you're aware, roughly 7 years ago, the province set out various deadlines for progression of municipal asset management plans. These plan requirements included creation of asset management policies through to assessment and financing strategy for all municipal infrastructure through establishment of service levels. So the town has met all deadlines to date, which brings us to the current July 1st, 2025 deadline to set proposed levels of service for all town assets. So the process for assessment of the town's asset are laid out through these 4 criteria. Firstly, inventory and data collection. Second, setting levels of service, which refers to the performance standards and expectations for quality, liability, efficiency of infrastructure assets. Thirdly is establishing life cycle management activities and risk profiles of each asset. And lastly, the establishment of a funding strategy related to those established levels of service. So shown here is a pie chart providing a breakdown of the town's approximate $292 million in assets. So you can see the largest asset classes make up about 93% of all assets, being facilities, roads, storm sewers, and bridges and culverts. And the remaining 7% of assets are machinery and equipment, vehicles, and land improvements, which would be sport fields, parking lots, trails, playground equipment, those types of assets. So the asset management plan is not to be considered a static document that would simply be completed and put on the shelf. The engineering department maintains and updates the database on a regular basis to ensure all the data is current, accurate, and useful. So at a minimum, staff will enter all new capital, or will annually enter all capital purchases and additions during the year to the asset database. We'll record any donated or transferred assets that were assumed or received through new developments or boundary adjustments. We remove sold and disposed assets from the database, update new condition assessments considered, and update the database for new or updated usage measures recorded for the year. So in order to properly manage asset replacement and renewal, staff require accurate information with regard to the asset's current condition and the risks associated with the possible failure of those assets. Every asset class has its own unique manner of calculating the two measures, which play a part in determining the timing of an asset replacement and renewal. So on the y-axis here, you can see the condition ratings, which rate from very good to very poor. Some asset classes have age-based condition ratings, for example with vehicles, and others have condition-based ratings, like with bridges. On the x-axis, we have risk ratings, which would be the consequence of failure. And calculating the risk related to the possible future of an asset can be a complicated calculation, and there are a number of factors that need to be considered to properly determine this measure. So the risk rating for various asset classes takes into account the impact to the town in various categories, such as health and safety, finance, environment, legal and regulatory compliance, reputation, image, and service interruption. And the end product of the probability of failure and consequence of failure is the asset's final risk factor. So the goal here is to reduce or minimize the risks whenever they're present. And the best mitigation strategy would always be to replace or renew an asset posing a risk, but that's not always possible or affordable in the short term. So regular inspections and maintenance are an important way to mitigate these risks. So the next few slides, there's quite a bit of information, but I'll just give a very brief overview of the town's asset classes here. We didn't mainly focus on the condition and risk section relating to the strategy. More detail, of course, can be found within the asset management plan. So here for bridges and culverts, you can see we have a targeted condition rating of 65 to 75 in this row right here. And the overall actual condition ratings for bridges and culverts is 73. So this indicates that the town is meeting its maintenance and replacement targets for these asset classes, which means we're not overfunding or underfunding these assets. So additionally, the town's meeting the replacement targets for bridges and culverts. It's noted there's one culvert with a risk rating greater than 10 that's not included in the capital replacement plan. That structure is structure C16, which is on Clark Road at Halls Creek, which is included in the scope of work with the Merck Development Project, so it isn't a standalone capital project in the capital plans. So moving on to roads, similarly, the town's very slightly exceeding the condition rating of 85, which that could mean overinvesting in road renewal, but I wouldn't put too much effort into this rating because we've just awarded a road needs study, which will have more condition ratings for our roads, so we'll get significant better data for a future update from this plan. A lot of our road infrastructures do include age-based data, where now we'll have complete condition-based data. In storm sewers, which includes gravity mains, catch basins, manholes, and stormwater management facilities, condition rating is within the minimum target range of 85, and there are no gravity mains with high risk rating requiring a capital renewal. Facilities are slightly exceeding condition ratings. There is one facility with a risk rating greater than 12, and I think we all know which facility that would be, which of course would be the MRC that is being taken care of in a significant capital project. Land improvements, again, this includes sport fields, parking lots, pathways, trails, playground equipment. The town is again meeting the target condition ratings. There are 8 assets with risk ratings greater than 12, which are not included in the 10-year capital program. There are footnotes within the tables of the asset management plan that relates to the rationale for not including those assets in the capital replacement plan, which largely relate to age-based condition ratings for assets that are functioning well. Machinery and equipment, once again, town's meeting asset target conditions. Again, there are a few assets here that are exceeding the risk rating, but again, age-related condition ratings and for functioning assets. For vehicles, we are exceeding condition ratings, which could indicate possible overinvestment. There's one high-risk vehicle not included in the 10-year plan, but again, an age-based. Vehicles are an interesting one because they're typically age-based and you can set those service levels, which would be a future indication for plan improvements. So on the asset report card here, this slide represents the annual funding requirements for the asset classes in order to fully finance replacement needs as they arise and achieve long-term sustainability. So the annual funding requirement is calculated based on the total replacement cost for each asset category and the expected life of the assets contained within it. So this doesn't mean that the town would spend this amount each year, but rather build a capital timeline to build reserves for those capital improvements. You can see here the annual funding target has been estimated to be a total of $7.8 million. And in comparison, the town has budgeted to contribute approximately $5.2 million towards those capital-related needs. So based on these calculations, the town is projected to underfund the asset renewal program by about $2.6 million annually, which appears significant, but it's a very common situation that the majority of municipalities are experiencing. And as it relates to ensuring not all assets have a very good rating, which would lead to expensive future programming. So by progressively moving from age-based renewal and maintenance programming to condition-based rating in the various assets, the infrastructure gap is projected to be reduced, which, for example, would be with the road needs study moving from those age-based condition data to condition-based data. And on this slide, we show that assuming no additional sources of revenue are considered and based on the council-approved annual taxation levy increase of approximately 1.5%, the town is projected to close the current infrastructure funding gap within 8 years by 2034. So considering an annual assessment growth of approximately 1.5%, the effective impact on individual property tax bills from this financing strategy would be nominal. If other sources of revenue become available, the impact of the town's taxation levy would potentially decrease or the infrastructure gap may be reduced sooner. So finally, next steps. By adopting the 2025 Asset Management Plan, the town would remain compliant with OREG 58817, where future levels of service are considered the present levels of service. And that said, there are still continual improvements that can be made to the plan. From a staff level, it's suggested that staff complete an in-depth review of condition ratings and inventory of all assets and document how and when those condition data is assessed. Secondly, to identify those age-based condition ratings, which may readily be considered for condition-based ratings. Thirdly, to complete an annual update of the asset management plan so current data is always available for budget season. And lastly, to continue to integrate the asset management plan with capital budget processes. From a council consideration from the asset management plan, it's recommended to endorse the 2025 plan in recognition of the OREG compliance. Secondly, for consideration of a formal asset management plan update every 4 years during the midterm of council for service level considerations. And thirdly, to continue committing the recommended funding increase for capital spending. And with that, I'd like to conclude the presentation and open for any questions council may have.
Thank you very much. Questions from council? Councillor Halleru, please.
Thank you. Very detailed presentation. Question I have, when it comes to the age-based versus condition-based, and we're thinking as asset management in terms of accessibility, do you find that it's helpful to identify those ahead of time? For example, we have maybe a road, or here in the graph here, I'm looking at something like the bridges and culverts that we may need to do because it's kind of either too narrow or it doesn't have a sidewalk. But then because it's not yet, old or it's not damaged, then we don't do that upgrade to that specific area because it's condition-based good. So how many of those have you recognized in this?
That's a good question, and I think it would become a balance of a service level increase for those projects to widen a road or reconstruct a bridge compared to the condition rating of those structures. And often our capital program for linear infrastructure on roads is tied to the county's capital program as well, where the county's water main cast iron replacement program would require a road to be upgraded as a capital project before another road widening from an accessibility perspective. But I think one day it could get to that point when all the linear infrastructure has been renewed from the county's perspective as well.
Okay.
Mr. Graves?
Sorry.
And maybe just to follow up on Matt's point, something we've discussed as a team and we are looking at as we analyze our capital on an annual basis, we're trying to identify areas that are sort of underserviced, so it'd be that service level. There may be some areas that we want to expand on, services areas where we're maybe didn't have a sidewalk already or something along that line. So that's a part of our regular general capital program outside of our sort of asset management. So that's something we're analyzing as a team all the time and looking at priority areas for the future.
So to follow up to that, so that would mean that we are basically able to kind of trend according to the usage and the need, so that we are actually prioritizing that over, okay, thank you.
Councillor Van Kootenbosens, and then Councillor Hughes, please.
Thank you. Matt, amazing. 18 years, I've never seen anything like this document, so thank you. Yeah, congratulations, good hire. Honestly, Appendix B, I think, is the most, I consider that probably the best part of the report, because it gives us exactly where we are at and, is it needing replacement? I just think that it's great to be able to see all of this, and this is the one document that I plan on having when we come back to capital budget time. I think that this is going to really set our capital budget up to win, because we've got all the information right there in front of us. So congratulations to you and your staff. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Hughes, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Matt, yes, and great work, great work. So my question's a little more focused into the, where is it here? The gravity main, so the stormwater piping and that. So we have 8 stormwater management facilities or ponds. Now, I believe you are doing an assessment of those ponds at this point in time. Is that going to be ready for the end of, or sometime this year, or is it going to be in 2026?
That's another good question. So we've are issuing an RFP. It's been released, actually, RFP for a stormwater management strategy update that would assess the design, how the stormwater management is designed in the town. Now, we recently got our CLI approval, which is the Consolidated Linear Infrastructure Approval from the ministry, where residential developments no longer need to go to the Ministry of Environment. We can approve those at the town level. And as part of that CLI approval, we have to have operation and maintenance manuals for all of our stormwater management facilities. Now, that was that's included in the capital budget for next year to look at all that, which I think once we get the stormwater management strategy rolling with the consultant, that update, it's going to lead into that O&M manual update for all the swim facilities as well. So that we're responsible to do it as part of our ministry approval, and then good engineering practice as well.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Further questions to the report? Seeing that, oh, sorry, I guess the question is, what's the most challenge that you're facing right now with the asset management? This is the the overall document, but what was the biggest challenge putting this information together in an updated fashion?
I think the biggest challenge with the asset management plan is having a good balance of very good assets and poor assets, where if you have all vehicles, I like using that as an example, if you have all very good vehicles, you're replacing them all at the same time. So it's a very capital-heavy program in the same cycle. So getting a good mix of good assets, poor assets, so that you continue to invest appropriately and build those reserves over time. I think that's the biggest challenge with the plan.
Any further questions? Seeing none, sorry, right spot here. Councilor Hughes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Hallerue, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive staff report OP-12-25 as information, and that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll adopt the current levels of service as their proposed future levels of service for the purpose of OREG 588/17 compliance and the 2025 update to the asset management plan. And further, that staff be directed to continue to monitor our progress through the compliant-based system and report back to council if necessary.
Thank you very much. Discussion. I'll just say that, asset management is an area of great promise, and it's an important one within an organization, certainly. And so having full confidence in Matt and his team, but also there's other components to it. It's really a municipality-wide system where it affects everybody and everything that we do. I know Arena and Mandy, you get affected by it greatly as well in the capital cycle, as everybody does. And so I am very happy to see those stages being happened to make sure there's reliable, real data coming forward to be able to inform those decisions and the asset ratings that they have. That's a very important piece to me, to be able to have that real-time, most up-to-date data that you can to make those conditional assessments. That goes a long way to the conditional part of it, rather than age-based as well, is very important, because it gives us much more accurate about what's being faced in the community and what we need to be able to put away financially to be able to prepare for that in a realistic and prudent manner. So I certainly support all the work that's being done on that. I think that change also gives council a much more realistic insight into service levels and where we're at. Without accurate data and knowing where we are and what's coming forward and what really needs to be replaced and what doesn't, it's hard to set those service levels at a different than what they are. So I think that'll be very useful to us as we go forward as well. So very much appreciative of all that. So any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, that takes us down on item number 7 on our, depends on which one you look at here. T-012-25 2024 Development Charge Reserve Fund Statement. And I will turn that over to Mr. Graves.
Yes, and just before I turn this over, I'd just like to point out to council that during the course of the evening tonight, we've had a lot of depth from our team in doing presentations. And you've seen the amazing work that this team is putting together, and we're very proud of everyone that works on this team. And you're getting to see why I keep telling you how amazing this team is and why I enjoy working here. It's very great to see some of the depth of this team come out. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our Deputy Treasurer, Randy Clark, who's another depth of our team and the future of our municipality, and to give us the Development Charge Reserve Fund statement.
Thank you. So this report is before council to present the Treasurer's statement of the Development Charge Reserve Funds and activities for the period of January 1st till December 31st, 2024, in accordance with the Development Charges Act. It does include details on the opening and closing balances, all funds collected and transfers completed in the 2024 year. The statement, once approved, will be available to the public and posted on the town's website as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Questions of the report? Seeing none. Councillor Halleru, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Again, thanks, and nice that we can have this for the community after this is approved. So this is moved by myself, Councillor Halleru, seconded by Councillor Vacanton Boston's, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive the delegation, sorry. Where are we? Number 7, yes. Moved by myself, Councillor Halleru, seconded by Councillor Vacanton Boston's, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive staff report T-012-25 as information, that the 2024 Development Charges Reserve Fund statement be made available to the public.
Thank you very much. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That finishes up our special staff reports, so now we can go to correspondence and resolution, which is Ingersoll Pipe Band Road Closure Request. Councillor Hughes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Halleru, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive the correspondence from the Ingersoll Pipe Band as information, and that Council supports the Ingersoll Pipe Band's request for the road closure for their parade on Saturday, August 16th, 2025.
Discussion. I remember them doing this about 7 years ago, and it was, yeah, it's, if you love pipe bands, it's awesome, and if you don't, go out of town that day. August 16th is not for you, but it is for me. It's fantastic. So, further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Councillor Halleru, Sam Mansbridge, please.
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself, Councillor Halleru, seconded by Councillor Vacanton Boston's, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive the delegation from Sam Mansbridge regarding fall nature artwork as information, and that Council approve the fall nature artwork project October 2nd to 4th to be formalized through the agreement between the town and the delegate.
Thank you very much. Discussion. Councillor Hughes, please.
Yes, thank you. This is an amazing initiative brought forward by one of our local business people here. It's great. It gets people, it adds to your walk. It gets people out looking at this art that is displayed. And it also works in conjunction with the local schools. It's a great all-encompassing initiative that I think Sam has done a fantastic job with and should be very proud of.
Councillor Halleru, please.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, to remember the presentation and how it's going to bring people all over together, even maybe visitors to our town, I think this is a significant step in helping to support small businesses and initiatives that really make it an inclusive experience. So I think this is a win-win for Ingersoll, and I'm really proud that we're seeing this come to fruition.
Absolutely. It's great that it's brought forward a little bit earlier this year, so there's time to plan and get it out there. And I know last year was the inaugural year, so it got out there, but yeah, it's great to see it back for sure. Further discussion? None? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And moving on to Ingersoll DI Committee, Councillor Vacanton Boston.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilson that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receives the correspondence from the Ingersoll Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee as information.
Thank you very much. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Some more great work being done there. And OPP Detachment Board Report, Deputy Mayor Wilson, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I had a quick question first, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. So perhaps to the council representatives on the detachment board, is this the new annual report we will get, or was this more for our information based on the statistics provided?
Councillor Hughes, please.
This is actually just the year-end report for December 2024 for the full year. The actual report that is will be brought by the end of the month. Unfortunately, the way everything's working out, they can't get it to us for this meeting. We will have it for the July meeting. Having said that, that report will be more generic to the, to the detachments, to the county, not specific to Ingersoll. So we, as the board, thought it would be good to bring this forward for the rest of council to review, and you would be able to ask direct questions regarding this report to the detachment commander when he is here for the presentation.
I'm okay. Thanks. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Bowman, that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive the correspondence from the Town of Ingersoll OPP Detachment Board as information.
Excellent. Discussion. So everybody has fair warning and they can get them ready. Excellent. Excellent. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. And that go into bylaws. So Councillor Bowman to take us into bylaws, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Hughes, that the mover now have leave to introduce and go into committee of the whole on the following bylaws. Number 1, bylaw 25-5395 to amend bylaw 06-4327, regulation of traffic and parking in the town of Ingersoll. All-way stop at Thames and Hallcroft. Number 2, bylaw 25-5396 to authorize vote by mail and the use of vote tabulators for the 2026 municipal election. And number 3, bylaw 25-5397, June confirmatory bylaw. Council and Committee of the Whole, Mayor Petrie and the Chair. On motion, the bylaws are accepted as circulated. This constitutes the first and second reading of the bylaws.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We're now in Committee of the Whole. Would anybody like to discuss any of the bylaws? Seeing none, Councillor Hughes, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Hallerud, that the committee do now rise out of Committee of the Whole.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Councillor Hallerud, third reading, please.
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself, Councillor Hallerud, seconded by Councillor Vancouver Bosons, that the bylaws 25-5395 to 25-5397 be now read a third time, passed, signed, and sealed, and that this constitutes the third reading of the bylaws.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And adjournment, please, Councillor Vancouver Bosons.
My pleasure. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilson, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll adjourn the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting of Council at 8:45 p.m.
Thank you very much. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening and safe drives.
Thank you, staff.